Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find these album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. I posted an album review of We Were Sharks, Lost Touch last night, so definitely check that out. It was pretty late, but I figure I'd get that out. Also, this one's pretty late as well. I'm going to try to get this one out ASAP Rocky for you guys. As well as I'll be posting the entire Get Free tour with Tonight Alive, Silverstein, Broadside, and Picturesque. I already posted Picturesque set. Broadsides is going out today as well. So definitely check back with the channel for that. And plenty of awesome stuff coming down the pipeline. So make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit that thumbs up. It really does go a long way. And thank you guys for your support. So tonight, we're going to be talking about Secret's new record. They're self-titled. So I've been a fan of this band for a little bit of time now at this point. I've loved most of the records, probably the last one, maybe the least amount. I thought it was pretty decent, but I definitely feel like they could do better. I still think probably their best record is Fragile Figures. I think most people would agree that one is the best one. So I was kind of going into this a little bit skeptical. I liked Incredible. I thought it was a good single. And then that was pretty much the only track that I listened to prior to doing this review. So, kind of coming into this blind, which I really like actually doing. In fact, more than just listening to the singles, unless it's just a really awesome record. So I'm gonna go through each track, give you my thoughts and opinions on all of them. I'm gonna go through some pros and cons on the record, and then I'm gonna finish it out with an overall rating. So the first track is called 16. This one has a really cool electronic intro to it that kind of makes its way throughout kind of the entire song, and I know that they have had electronics in their music in the past. However, I felt like this one was a little bit more forward in terms of the song, as well as it does kind of translate throughout the record as well. There is kind of a stronger note of electronic presence throughout. I also like the kind of 50-50 split between well, I would consider him newer, Wade, their screamer, and then Richard, who's been on cleans for the entirety of Secrets. I like that there's a 50-50 split to kind of start off the record with. There's enough screaming and there's enough clean singing to kind of break up the track. I really enjoy the chorus of the song. I think it's catchy and it highlights Richard's great cleans. And I think it's a solid opener. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I probably consider this to be amongst probably my favorites. I maybe have to give it a few more listens, but I would probably put this one in the top tier songs off the record. So we're going to move into track number 2, which is 14. This one has a bit of a faster pace to it. It and just kind of brings more energy than the previous track did, I would say, without a doubt. The chorus is really strong on this track as well. I feel like there's a trend throughout this record that I've really kind of enjoyed a lot of the choruses throughout the record. And it just kind of adds this awesome kind of fullness the group vocals do. And I like that they kind of utilize that as well. It's a nice little kind of thing to add to tracks to kind of make them different and make kind of the choruses sound a little bit better. And I've always loved group vocals in this style of music. I think it works really well. It's got a really great bounce to it, but at the same time, it has awesome, catchy moments to it. That's one thing that I also picked out from this record. It's very catchy. I would say I think it's personally more catchy than the previous record. And so I think that in that regard, I feel like they're starting off on the right foot. We're only in 2 tracks in, and I feel like these 2 tracks are very catchy as well. So definitely enjoyed this one. So we're gonna move into track number 3, which is Incredible. This was the first single on the track, and first single on the record. And you know what the weird thing about this track was, I wasn't really sold on it initially. I had to give it a few listens, even when it was in single form. But I feel like after listening to the record kind of in full many times, I feel like this kind of matches up with what they're going for. And I feel like it fits them more sonically, in my opinion. I almost like that it has kind of almost a pop punk vibe to it. It also Has some really great trade offs between Wade and Richard. Just throughout the song, just this nice, really kind of call and echo, which I appreciate. They do that a little bit throughout certain songs on this album, but more specifically in this one, I would say it is utilized the best. The chorus is super catchy. And again, I was pretty skeptical about this track, but I definitely feel like it has grown on me. It's definitely one of the better tracks off the record. It might even be one of my favorite singles that were released. Again, I don't know exactly which ones were. I know that this one was, in fact, a single. I think Strangers may have been one, and then 3:17:16 is another single. But that was really cool. There's this awesome kind of abrupt breakdown at the 2 minutes and 20-second mark to the 2 minutes and 40-second mark, which is really nice. And I feel like it highlights a lot of Wade's killer screams. I feel like they weren't highlighted as much in the previous record, so it's good to see that he's doing a little bit more diversity on that front. So we're gonna move into track number 4, which is Strangers. I think this one just kind of perfectly combines melody and heaviness. It was something that every time I went back to this track on the record, it just really stands out. I feel like, especially Wade's in terms of his screaming, I feel like this really highlights his vocal range and just the more experience and the more kind of, I guess, how he fits into the band now. And I feel like it definitely, he feels more stronger. The vocals and the screams just sound so much better. The chorus has that catchy bug to it, which I really enjoy. It was one of those ones that I was singing along to, after maybe the second time through listening to this record. So definitely is a favorite of mine, without a doubt. I think it was executed very well, if not perfectly. And it's easily one of the best tracks on the record. Obviously, the record's been out now for a couple days, so I'm curious to see what people think about it. So we're gonna move into track number 5, which is 5 Years. This one is easily one of the heavier tracks off the record. This one kind of features more of Wade screaming, and I definitely feel like I've been mentioning it a lot, but I feel like it's definitely true. Wade's vocals have improved immensely since the past record. I feel like he has more range. He just has more kind of grit to his vocals, and it just works. I'm also liking sort of the darker undertones of this track. I feel like it's a little bit obviously on the heavier side, so it kind of has that darker feeling to it. Which you can definitely pick up in the bridge, I would say, without a doubt. And then the layered vocals just add this awesome heaviness to the track. I would definitely, if you are interested in more of the heavier sides of Secrets, I would highly recommend listening to 5 Years. I think it's one of the heaviest tracks and definitely one of the better tracks off this record in general. So we're gonna move into track number 6, which is Mouth Breather. The intro guitar is just super sick. Probably one of my favorite riffs off the entire record. And it feels really creative for what Secrets does. And what they're known for. I feel like this is kind of, again, them trying to do stuff different, and I definitely appreciate it. There's this awesome contrast between sort of the angrier lyrics and the sort of happier instrumentals. They almost kind of feel pop punky in certain parts. There's really nice breakdown at the 2 minute mark to the 2 minutes and 15-second mark. And there's just a nice mix of both Richard and Wade's vocals. I feel like they both kind of balance out in this one as well. I feel like this is kind of close to 50-50, maybe more in the side of Wade, maybe 60-40 in terms of screams and cleans. But I really enjoyed this one. It was kind of, again, different from what they typically do, and I like that they're trying different things in this record. So we're gonna move it into track number 7, which is Lost Cause. This one feels more on the rock side, and there is a lot of Richard's vocals. I would say primarily it's Richard's vocals, with Wade kind of having some parts throughout the track, mainly specifically the second verse of this track. I also love the more melodic approach. Again, coming off of like 5 Years and Mouth Breather, which are kind of a little bit more on the heavier side. It's nice to see a contrast between those two. I think it works out very well in this song. And I'm just liking the diversity so far. There has been a lot of heavy tracks. There have been some really kind of like interesting, like almost pop punky sort of tracks. And then they've got some really just kind of heavy, like meaty, like metalcore tracks. So, which is really interesting. I also like that they added piano in this track. I think it's in the bridge, and it just kind of breaks up the track in a really nice way. and I just feel like it works out super well. So we're gonna move it into track number 8, which is Last Time. I personally feel like this is Richard's strongest track vocally. It's clearly the focal point of this song. It's really freaking catchy, and I love the song structure. And I just feel like this one just kind of runs the gambit of heavy and melodic. It just works again in both tandem. I feel like it's much like Strangers. I feel like those two kind of are the my personal favorite two tracks off the record so far. And it just really works out. This one also includes gang vocals as well, and it's just a nice addition to this track. Being on kind of the more, I guess, is more on the sort of rocky side. I mean, there are some heavy parts. I mean, I feel like if it wasn't Secrets, they wouldn't leave that out. But really good track, probably a favorite, definitely a favorite of mine. And we're gonna move into track number 9, which is Chemical Reaction. This one is very experimental and not in a bad way. I think that it was something that I wasn't expecting from them. Uh, and just for them to write, I feel like it's more on the along the lines of like a Pierce the Veil song. Obviously excluding Vic's vocals, because he has such a crazy range. But I feel like this one kind of is just a different kind of change for them, but I think it works out. It's really unique. And it's one of those standout tracks that I feel like you'll come to when you listen to this record. I also just feel like it's just, again, that's why it's just so different. I feel like that for that reason it's a standout track. And I just feel like it shows off a lot of Richard's range. I feel like there's not as much Wade's vocals in this one as well. So there is this kind of lull where Wade doesn't have too much. But overall, I really enjoyed Chemical Reaction. So we're gonna move into track number 10, which is 3:17:16. This one, when I first listened to it, I wasn't, again, particularly a fan. Much probably like Incredible, but I feel like this one has grown on me as well. Probably not as much as Incredible. I Every time Incredible comes on, I love that track. But this one kind of has more of the atmospheric route to it. There's moments of heaviness, but I feel like again it blends melodicness very well into this track. And then just the electronics add this unique atmosphere to the track as well. Liking how the lead guitar parts kind of pick up in the second half of the track, and there's this nice little breakdown at the 2 minutes and 35-second mark to the 2 minutes and 45-second mark. I feel like this one is kind of a lackluster track. I wouldn't say it's bad by any means, but it's definitely not a favorite of mine. Every time I come back to this one, I feel like a little bit, I guess, disinterested in it. It's just not as good as the other ones that I've been mentioning that have been my favorites, or ones that I feel like definitely are kind of better in that sort of tier rating. So let's go on to um track number 11, The End. This one is an interesting one as well. I like that they are doing things differently. They're switching things up. I feel like this one kind of has Wade doing some clean vocals. Somebody can clarify that if not. But I feel like he's doing clean vocals in the verses, and Richard kind of holds the choruses. But I feel like this one is probably the softest song off the record. But there is an immense amount of diversity in this one. Again, I like that they utilize Wade in a different way, if that happens to be him. I almost feel like it is, because it doesn't sound anything like Richard's voice, so I would assume it's Wade's. And I really like the cleans. I feel like if later on they decide to continue on with like that, I feel like they would be great in kind of harmonizing, because Richard has a really kind of great high range and great kind of mid range, and Wade could do kind of like the low end of the songs. That would be really neat, and maybe we'll see that in the future. So we're gonna move it into the last track number 12, which is Let Me In. And this is probably, again, the most interesting track off the record. I feel like they were definitely trying different stuff towards the end of the record, more specifically this one and the end. I feel like were probably the most like kind of out of bounds tracks. But this one also features a lot more electronics, but I feel like it has also kind of moved in more of the rock direction. I would say that there is kind of less screaming. I would say that they have more screaming on this one, so I feel like this is more akin to the style that they are going for moving forward. But there definitely has more of a tone back sort of feeling to it, which I don't mind, because I think it sounds great. This one is definitely kind of a black sheep of the record, and it's just kind of really different than the songs that have been before this one. So really appreciate that. I also like the inclusion of electronics and how they've kind of been prevalent throughout the record. You'll notice it in a lot more songs than I expected. I went through for a first listen, and then I went back for a second listen, obviously, and every time I listened to it, I kind of picked up more and more stuff. So that was really interesting to hear from on that end, and I like that this kind of combines a lot of the elements of the entire record, heavy, melodic, and just kind of really catchy stuff. I feel like this one utilizes that very well, and I also feel like Wade and Richard were utilized well in this track. And I feel like it's a great closer track. So, some pros and cons that I have on the record. Some pros: there is an immense amount of diversity on here, everything ranging from kind of like pop punk to like metalcore stuff, which is nice. There's some great balance between heavy and soft tracks. There are some, again, softer tracks, kind of more along the lines of like rock, and then there's some really heavy tracks, like 5 Years, Mouth Breather. I would probably put Strangers in there as well, which is really nice. And I like that they took some risk. I knew that a lot of people weren't particularly big fans of the previous record, but everybody loved Fragile Figures. So I feel like in terms of tiering, I feel like this is very close to Fragile Figures, if not a tie for their best record, without a doubt. One con that I have about the record so far is that I feel like Wade isn't utilized enough in the sort of songs. There are some songs that obviously require him, like 5 Years and like Mouth Breather. And I mean, he's kind of sprinkled throughout, but I would have loved just one track where it was just all screams, no cleans, just a really heavy track would have been kind of like the nail in the coffin. I would have put this much higher in terms of rating if I felt like if there was another sort of heavier track on the record that just had primarily screams. Because I know that, Richard had some songs where it's just pretty much all cleans, like The End. There's definitely another few that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I know that there was at least probably like 2 or 3 tracks where it was like primarily just Richard's vocals. So love to hear a heavier track. Maybe they'll do it on a reissue. I hope they don't do a reissue, but if it happens, it happens. But I'd love to see just a straight heavy track. That would be my only con about this record. But overall, again, I would probably compare it with Fragile Figures in terms of catchiness, in terms of heaviness, in terms of just interesting and diverse tracks. I feel like this one just kind of took me by surprise and is definitely amongst one of my favorite records to come out this year for sure. So my overall rating for Secret's self-titled record, I'm going to be giving it a 9.5 out of 10. I highly recommend going to check this out if you are a fan of them. If you haven't listened to them since Fragile Figures, I would definitely get on ball with this one. I think it's a really kind of solid record, definitely amongst the top records that they've done. Maybe over time I'll have to see if it's close to Fragile Figures. I think it's really close now, but my thoughts could change in a couple months. But overall, really solid stuff. I like that they went heavier. I like that they went different in some regards. So definitely go check this one out if you haven't already. Like I mentioned, it's been out since Friday, so if you can pick it up, I'm sure they would appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this review, let me know what some of your favorite tracks are in the comments below, what you thought about the record as well. I would certainly like to have a conversation about it. I know that they are doing a headliner tour currently, so if you are on the West Coast, Texas, Canada, definitely go check that out. They put on a great live show as well, too. So if you enjoyed this review, again, please subscribe. Please hit that thumbs up. Plenty of awesome stuff coming down the pipeline, and I'm excited to be sharing those with you real soon. So my name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com. and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.